Hey everybody, this is Alan Moore, certified financial planner and founder of Serenity Financial Consulting. Thanks for joining me. So we've been hearing a lot about the baby boomer generation, Gen X and Gen Y, but I think we're going to start hearing a lot more about the sandwich generation. So see, while boomers, Gen X and Gen Y are classified based on their age, the sandwich generation is actually classified based on the life stage. And the sandwich basically refers to being stuck in between aging parents and financially dependent children. And those children may be young or they may be older adults, but either way, it's in between the parents and the kids. And this generation and this experience in life may be the most financially difficult times to get through that any of us will experience in our lifetime. So on one side, we have the aging parents. Many years ago, our elderly parents were basically promised that they would be taken care of financially. That's what they were told, and that's kind of how they saved or didn't save for. They may have had pensions that they were counting on that went belly up. There's a lot of things that have happened. And when you combine increasing longevity with much higher than expected health care costs, what you have is an entire generation of adults that cannot cover their own basic living expenses, no matter how meager they may be. So what that means is that basic expenses such as groceries, assisted living facilities, Medicare supplemental insurance plans, all that has fallen onto the children that are sitting in this sandwich generation. And then on the other side, we have the children. So like I said, this may be older children or younger. I see this a lot with older adults specifically. Many parents were under the impression that once their kids got out of college, they would be financially self-sufficient. Well, are you really going to tell your unemployed college graduate child that they can't move home? No, they're moving home, and those in the sandwich generation are taking care of their kids financially. So what this means is that they're responsible for their own expenses, their aging parents' expenses, and their adult children expenses. And a lot of parents are also now becoming financially responsible for their grandchildren as well, if their children are not in a financial position to be able to, to basically be able to financially support their family. So what this is leading to is no retirement savings. So the first thing to go is retirement savings, because there's just not enough money to go around. If you really combine all the expenses with adults and all the expenses for kids, what you have is a lot of people that are not saving for retirement, have maybe even reduced their own, lifestyle, and are taking on debt to afford it all. So what can you do? Moving, mom into a government-funded living facility or telling your kids they can't move home even though they're unemployed and have no money, that's not going to happen. You're probably going to say yes. But there are some things that you can do to be sure that you're balancing it all. The first step is continue saving for retirement. Do not cut off your own retirement savings. Keep putting money into your 401k or other retirement accounts, but you need to be sure you're putting aside enough so that you can retire comfortably. You do not want to cut that off. So the second step is, after you know how much you need to be saving for retirement, is to make a spending plan. This spending plan should outline all your own expenses and your retirement savings, and then begin to earmark how much you can spend on your parents and your kids. And although you may not be able, depending on your parents' situation, you may not be able to easily communicate with them the actual dollars, you certainly can with your children. And it might help to be able to know, for them to know what they can expect in terms of how much help you can actually give them. Because if they're expecting $5,000 a month and you can only give them $1,000, it's something you want to clarify. Which really leads into the next point of put everything in writing, especially with your kids. If your kid moves home and they say they're going to pay rent, draw up a basic lease and have them sign it. It's not so you can take them to court. It's so that it is in writing and everybody's on the same page. If you expect them to buy their own groceries or to clean the house or mow the lawn or whatever it is, put it in writing and have them sign it. The reason is because by putting it in writing, you're actually initiating a conversation and a dialogue with them so that they understand that there's financial expectations. Or maybe it's not even financial, like mowing the lawn may just be a time expectation. But if it's something that you need from them and expect from them in order for your financial support, be sure they understand it. Putting it in writing helps to solidify that. If you expect your kids to pay rent, but you've never talked about it, and then they don't pay rent, it's kind of hard to be mad about it, right? So then the final step is you've got to learn when to say no, and this is the hardest part. I know it's difficult to say no. I mean, it pretty much always is. But once the basic necessities are paid for parents and for children, you've got to learn how to say no. If your mom says, hey, I want to go clothes shopping, but she doesn't really know that she doesn't have any money, you may have to tell her, no, we can't do that. Or if your kids say, well, I can't make the rent payment to you because, me and my friends are going on a spring break vacation, you can say no. And although that may be more difficult, it may not be as hard as it sounds. This may be one of those, this is going to hurt me a lot more than it hurts you kind of situations, because they may be offended for a couple of days and then it passes, whereas it may hurt you a little longer to really have to say no. If you aren't too thrilled with the financial position that you're in with aging parents, whatever you do, don't do the same thing to your kids. If you cut off your retirement savings until your parents, maybe until they pass away or until your kids are truly financially independent, then you're going to be retired and have no money, and then all of a sudden you're going to become a financial burden on your kids. The greatest gift a parent can give their children is probably to be financially independent. So don't leave your kids in a position where they have to take care of you the same way you took care of your parents, because it creates a nasty cycle that's going to be really hard to break. So are you in the sandwich generation? I would love to hear how you're managing the expenses of having an aging parent and children. Or if you're on the other end and maybe you're the child of a sandwich generation, I'd love to hear how you're, basically balancing this to try and get off of your parents' support, if at all. Definitely feel free to share in the comments section. So that's all I have for today. Thanks so much for joining me.